Hey, welcome to the What If Universe. I am Drew here to bring you another interview, and this time we're talking to someone who I recently collaborated with who actually quit doing My Hero What Ifs, but we'll talk about our collab later here. And, anyways, I like to introduce Boss Fiend, who used to be known by Yonko Fiend.
Oh, thanks for having me on the channel, man.
So, to get things kind of started, what made you choose the idea with Fiend, like going from Crown Fiend to Yonko Fiend to Boss Fiend? Like, what was that mindset about?
Okay, so I knew I wanted to keep the Fiend title because that's more or less like if you took Crown off of there and you put Fiend, like that just it sounds good. But if you try to replace Fiend with a whole lot of other stuff, it doesn't easily mesh well. And I wanted people that would eventually go between channels be able to find it easily. So Fiend kind of is become a staple of my branding. And from Crown to Yonko, Yonko was kind of like a placeholder until I figured out what I actually wanted the channel to be named overall. Because I always knew I wanted to do One Piece content, but with that, I didn't just want to do One Piece. And that's kind of where inspiration came to me whenever Boss Fiend came into play, because the name Boss Fiend is kind of homage to my favorite fictional character of all time, which is Kitano Ken from the manga Sunken Rock. And all throughout there, he's known as Boss Ken. So I kind of took that with Boss Fiend. And that's how that happened.
It's understandable. So, what was your inspiration to actually start making What If content when you were into that?
So my inspiration to start was mainly the lack of darker stories, because every What If I kind of listened to, it always had like this happy ending, or like there was a lot of happy moments all the way through it, but there wasn't a whole lot of repercussions that caused things to go into a bit of a darker take. No one took more of a little bit of a realistic input. It was like, hey, let's make this character as overpowered as possible and see where it goes from there. And so, from a combination of mainly watching Plus Ultraman videos, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shot, and that kind of what led into my own brand of What Ifs.
I find it funny, both of our main inspirations, to a degree, is Plus Ultraman, to an extent.
Yeah, that dude's amazing. Like, I love the work that he does, but you know, I'm more into seinens than shonen, so kind of see where that came from and my inspiration.
I guess to stay on topic here, when I was doing my initial run for What If staying trade in Deku, a lot of people thought I was copying him, which I can get that to an extent, but I clearly explained, like, in the series that I just didn't like the direction he took with the story at a certain point, even though I did help him write part of his stuff. So it's more the fact that he was including some Vigilantes content, which I, at the time, not fully caught up on, which is something I'm probably going to catch up on when MHA goes on hiatus again, honestly. But been honestly watching some JoJo, so I might do some what ifs on that, but I'm only at part 3, so, well, at the end of part 3, so it's like, you know, watch OVAs and stuff for extra content. But as far as that goes, I do agree with you that darker what if content is very absent. Like, the only other one that I remember that I actually took down that direction was a collab with Smug Stick for What If Goku was taken over by the Big Gay Star. Because I know that one turned out not. Well, you know, it's like as you expect, you know, but it's like no one would have done that, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's like Goku going back to Earth to just consume the entire planet, basically. It's like it should have been expected, I guess, but besides the point, I will say that I've become the type of person who wants to take things less seriously, as people might have noticed in our collab that we didn't take it too seriously, to be honest
No,
with you.
that was just some dumb fun right there. That because it's realistic as what would happen, but it's like more of a comedic spin on it, which I kind of enjoyed doing.
I will say, whenever we get to part 2, we're probably just gonna have Tenya die, just so I can have Fiend write about how that would go down, most likely.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was one thing that people kept criticizing me for in my Lotus. It's just like, you always have Ida die. Why do you keep having Ida die? And I'm like, look, if anyone else would have tried to save him on their own, then they would have. But if Deku doesn't care about him like that, then he's just gonna die because no one cared about him like that.
Well, even realistically, if Shoda cared enough, I still feel like Sting could still win, considering Ida was already down. Like, as long as he didn't know enough about his quirk, I think he would have had an upper hand.
Yeah, definitely.
Despite how OP Todoroki honestly is, let's be honest here.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. I have a whole another video in store for Todoroki, but yeah, even as OP as he is, he would have ultimately died with Ida there because they don't have Izuku there to just like be a walking dictionary of quirks.
Speaking of with doing what ifs, like, how was it like writing your first what if to an extent?
My first one actually wasn't written. That was just like off the top of my head. 99% of the what ifs on my channel were off the top of the head. I'm just going to be honest. I've only written about 1 or 2 out of all of them that I've done.
So did other people write them, or you just do it on the spot for that?
No, everything was my own creation. I 100% pride myself on that channel was 100% all me. So everything from the intros, the thumbnails, banners, all that stuff, editing, all that was just me. And the stories were just off the top of my head. I was thinking while talking.
Anyways, I will bring up. I know if your Crown Fiend channel, there isn't as much editing to it. What led you to do that decision compared to everyone else like competing against your channel?
Time crunch. Because when you work in construction, you tend to work 10 to 12-hour shifts a day. So not a whole lot of time for anything else.
I mean, that's pretty fair. I would say that realistically, if you did have other stuff edited, or if you went back in time to do that, I feel like your channel could have been actually on par with most of the larger MHA channels that I see. But the thing is, like, with MHA what ifs, there's only like a few people I can name. And the problem is so many people just do really average stuff. I'm gonna be honest about that.
Yeah, no, that's 100% fair. Like, a lot of people don't put in as much effort as the top tier other channels, and it shows.
I think that's kind of what led me to incorporate more humor of my stuff. Because the thing is, like, if I'm not gonna try too hard much with it, I at least want to be funny so people can be entertained by the video, you know?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that's kind of what happened to me.
Definitely. Like, if you're not going to go and put in, like, amazing visuals, and if you're not going to try that hard as well, at least have another selling point. But a lot of people don't have that. They just that. But, I noticed, like, a few other people, like, they started putting at least some gameplay in the back, even if it's not related to the story itself. It is something else to watch. So,
I think my favorite one was someone was doing an MHA what if, and there was just like Minecraft Sky Wars in the background. It's like, okay, I guess it's something.
It's definitely at least an applaud for them.
You get effort for putting in gameplay in the background, like a commentary channel. All right. That's just how it is.
It is what it is these days.
Do you think what helped propel your channel, considering you didn't put as much editing into it, was your story factor and your likability as a person?
I'd like to think so. I think the main selling point for my channel was I wasn't afraid to kill off the main character, which that's not something just a whole lot of people do. There is very rarely anyone else out there that will kill off the main character of the What If. But I didn't care if that's how the story would go, then that's how the story would go. Not everything had to be a happy ending. And I think a lot of people actually liked that there was something new, like more grittiness to it, and no one was safe. Because that's what a lot of my viewers kept commenting is like, they love how there's no plot armor in any of them that I do.
I feel like you do need to have tension because, like, for example, when I was watching JoJo Part 3, I thought, like, majority of the cast was going to be okay. But then when you have, like, have you seen JoJo Part 3? I don't know if I want to spoil things or not.
Oh no, I'm waiting on Part 6 right now, so I'm completely caught up. So as soon as they went to challenge Dio, yeah.
Like, you remember when Abdul died? Like, that's when I thought
Mm-hmm.
there were stakes, like, in, like, the first part. Because even though they faked it out, it felt like he could have actually died.
And the best part is like, with the JoJo's death, it's like every character that died at the final part contributed into defeating an opponent in some way and shape.
And I think that's something that I think more What If YouTube channels should look into. It's like, you can have a character die off, but you need to make sure there's a good purpose to it to an extent.
Yeah, because I'm on the belief that if you're just killing people to make it dark, then you're doing it wrong. Every death needs to serve a purpose, or at least a propelling point in the story, to make it go a little bit further and beyond than what it normally would.
For sure. So, as far as when you were making What Ifs, what led you to a point when you started like to have like burnout with the content? Not necessarily giving up, but more like the starting point for that.
It was when I was trying to switch some things up, add in a few bit of diversity into it. It was just like, I didn't want to keep doing My Hero because, to be honest, it kept like just getting me dragged on because it was to a point where, there's only so much you can do to change up a story in any given way. And I felt like a lot of my stories, if I would have kept going down that path, it would have ended up like other channels where I'm just repeating a theme with slight deviations here and there. And I didn't want that. But when the other videos, understandably, I didn't expect them to like expectly take off. But when you have like 7,000 to 8,000, and then it's not even getting about 300 views in a week, it kind of hits you hard. It motivates you in a way. So that's what was like definitely moving towards me just slowing down a lot.
And when did you actually reach the breaking point for when you were doing What If content?
It was right after I did What If Deku Was Hush. Because to me, that's like my best work ever. And then it just didn't do as well. It was like, it had the most editing, the most time and effort. I actually spent a week writing the script, doing a lot of in-depth research on Hush, and the people that did like it, I am very grateful for them, because like I had people commenting that I really nailed Hush as a character and stuff like that. But whenever, the numbers tell you that most people didn't even stick past like the 2-minute mark, for me, that was just, yeah, it's like I'm done with what ifs. And I was having more fun, like talking to my friends and explaining characters to them, and that's what kind of led to the idea of a second channel coming to life. Because I tried doing other things, but I kind of took a step back and realized that Crown Fiend's always just going to be seen as a what if channel. So it's time to start from scratch and do stuff that I enjoy, and have it to where there's people that are more open to a bit more diversity in their content.
What led you to gain into more to the editing side of things? 'Cause I noticed as time progressed, you actually were spending more time to actually edit with your
It
audio
was
and video.
it was a pride thing. I'm a very prideful person, and if something doesn't quite reach my standard over time, I'm just like, I can't stay the same if I want to grow. My pride won't allow me to just stay still, because as a person and as an ex-athlete, I was always taught to keep striving for improvement, and that's something that's always stuck with me. And so that's kind of what led into there a bit, was now I'm learning more editing techniques. So um, it takes longer to make videos, but I'm a lot more happier with the quality of the video when it comes out.
I guess we can actually get into a bit of the story of how our collab happened. So, to briefly get people an idea of what happened, at the time, Fiend was still doing what if content when we were setting up the collab, but by the time I got back to him with the full pitch and everything, he basically quit. So, I guess we can get into that mindset, why we decided to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
So, what made you agree to get out retirement for that?
It seemed like a fun idea. It was something that I honestly never even considered, but from a story standpoint, it was just like, that actually seems like a pretty cool idea. And like, Night Eye is one of my favorite characters in My Hero, so of course, like, something revolving around Night Eye, I gotta be a part of that.
I am gonna be honest, I did think it was pretty funny the fact that we made it so All Might's like, well, I wanted to give it to you because I felt like you were ready for it when he shows up, and Sir Night basically was trying to pick Mirio to take over, kind of.
To me, it was funny because it kind of seemed like when All Might was explaining it to Deku, like, no one can take it by force, but you can give it to someone by force. Like, that's kind of what it was like. And funny to me, it's like, it's kind of a play off that little speech that he gave to Deku.
Yeah, because I believe in the second movie, even though there's questionability on its canonicness, it does show the fact that Deku could give it to, like, Bakugo, and he could use it.
Yeah, and that whole movie in itself has issues, especially with the ending. Like, oh, he passed out because, and that caused the quirk to not fully transfer. That was just like, so if someone would have knocked out Deku, he still would have been quirkless.
I mean, if I were ever to do a what if, I would definitely consider that movie as a really good father, because there's a way you could have Bakugo get one for all, and Deku's kind of like now more of a side character at that point, basically.
Yeah, and
Because Deku could still have Amber, similar to what All Might has. There's a way to make that work, so he could
yeah.
still be relevant for a little bit.
Well, the thing with that movie is at the very end, Deku did use up all the embers in one final go, because even All Might said he had to limit what he could do in order to hold on to the embers, and Deku didn't hold back anything, and so he just really used them all up. Because before he faded out, he told the quirk goodbye, and you saw the flame go out.
I guess that is true by technicality, but still, there is questions behind that. How would he know?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I mean, if I feel like the only way he could know is like if they use the same logic as how All Might knew that he used up the last bit of his power, which I'm still confused on how All Might can go between Small Might to Big Might without his quirk, because that's just that in itself needs an explanation.
My
But
theory is that All Might's original quirk could have possibly been a transformation quirk.
yeah,
So it
that
was
theory,
useless, like physically, but it could make him look different. Is my theory.
yeah, that theory actually holds a lot of weight, and that's what I've come to believe is my own personal head canon.
The other thing is it could just be done for humor, which it would suck, but I think it'd be hilarious if All Might's only quirk was to transform to look buff, and that's it. He doesn't have anything else that was special about him, which would help with his character, in my personal opinion.
Oh yeah, I mean, my hero has a lot of characters that definitely need a lot of help, but I agree that would actually help All Might's character a lot, in my opinion.
Speaking with what ifs, do you think larger casts make it harder to do what ifs? Because I've seen people really underutilize a whole cast and focus too much on Deku personally.
Yes and no. I think if the cast are pretty good and fleshed out characters in themselves, they can be used by someone who knows somewhat of what they're doing. However, if someone doesn't know how to properly address side characters very well, then yeah, I don't I think a larger cast would be a lot of problems for them, and that's why you don't see a lot of people using them. But I'm actually more of a fan of when people actually do use the larger cast into the what if, because to me that adds so many more possibilities and loopholes, and I always loved doing it whenever I did do it. So, you know.
I would say for me, my favorite way to do that was when, for What If Stain trained Deku at part 5, around that part, Deku basically left UA. He's basically abandoned everyone. And Ida's basically trying to pick up the pieces with Todoroki, because if it wasn't for Deku calling off Stain to essentially like kill him off, it's like Deku essentially saved their lives to an extent, so they're not sure how to go about with him, you know?
Yeah. And that's an example of what I think is really good with a story is like when you have that kind of character dynamic to where the rest of the cast doesn't know if they could, potentially trust him or if he's good or is he all bad or what. And I really do love that type of character interaction.
Because the thing is, like, with Stain, even though his ideology is not perfect at all, there's a way he could justify things to an extent.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's the fun part with this version of Deku, because he doesn't fully agree either. But the thing is, like, he understands where Stain's coming from, which makes it a bit different from Plus Ultraman's, in my opinion.
Yeah, instead of like conforming Stain completely, it's like they'll work together, but there's differences with ideals, and I mean that's with anyone that works together. You're never gonna 100% like have the same type of ideals as someone you work with. It's just never gonna happen. So the way you went about it is really realistic, and I liked it more than what Plus Ultraman did with his, because to me it felt like a bit of a too sudden, too forced switch for Stain.
And I kind of said in part 1, I felt like Stain had more charisma than Deku at that point. Because Deku's kind of at his low point when he first met him in this like what if scenario technically. So it's
Oh,
more like, yeah.
100%. Deku was dealing with massive insecurities at that point. Like, he had just been told to go, commit suicide. So, of course, like, at that point, just about anything would have swayed Deku. Because what makes What If so easy for My Hero is Deku's a blank canvas. You can do whatever with him as long as you make it make sense. It's perfectly acceptable because of how uh, blank he is.
I kind of disagree, but it's more the fact that Deku at that point, the story was no longer like his I'll use D&D alignments. He wasn't like as lawful good where he's kind of at like currently for the anime, but the idea is that he basically became that over time. At that point in
Yeah,
the story, though, he still had a lawful nature stuff. He understood where society was with quirks and all, but the thing is that would he fully agree with something? The thing is that's how you can get like a lawful, like neutral type of character. Like even though Stain arguably be like lawful evil, the thing is Deku's like in the middle. It's like he kind of agrees with Stain that heroes should do more with their job. Because Stain kind of explains like there's plenty of heroes out there. None of them chose to save you. That's basically how he went about it.
exactly. I mean, Deku at the beginning of the story, yeah, he's like, I'd give it to you. He is lawful neutral at that point because, yeah, he knows all about the heroes and stuff like that. He strives to be one for the right reasons, of course. But I mean, at that point, if you would have met someone like Stain who has more charisma, who, in my opinion, is definitely like lawful evil, then it would have made Deku like more affirmed into a lawful full neutral type of stance.
And that's what I kind of like because we get what original season one Deku would have been if he didn't become as like proud of himself with his power. He's kind of like only became the way he was thanks to Stain.
Yeah,
How long that'll take him though, that will really depend because he has no power. So I'm really curious how far that series will genuinely go.
yeah, it can go as far as it possibly can because like Stain was a huge threat to people just because how well he built up his body, his agility, and overall his awareness and ability to analyze a situation and kind of adjust accordingly. That and his resilience made him a really formidable threat.
Yeah, I think that I'm just trying to use that series as an example to show like what to do if you don't have the main character anymore. There's still other characters you can still go off of from an event like that, theoretically.
Oh, yeah, like one of them that would probably be if I was in that situation. One of them that I would highly recommend people go with would be definitely Todoroki because there's a lot to him. He's definitely probably the most fleshed out character in all of My Hero with his whole family dynamic and everything like that. If people know, they know, but I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah, and the thing is that that's kind of what happened to that series. It's like Todoroki's the next best candidate to turn into the main character for the UA half. But I still plan like for part 6 to discuss like what's up with Stay and Deku at this point. Like what are they gonna end up doing technically?
Yeah, 100%. Because, like, that series, you can either make it really long or a good length. And in my opinion, like, a good length would be, like, no more than probably 10 or 12 episodes.
I feel like it can go longer, but I'm only saying because I split up the timeline. So I still talk about what happens at UA, but it's kind of like, what if Deku didn't go UA to an extent? So it is kind of like not super exciting, but there is enough to talk about, in my opinion, that's noteworthy.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I think My Hero, it should have. I personally don't think it should have just turned into the Deku show. They should have done like side episodes, kind of like what they did with One Piece, to talk about what are the other characters doing at such and such time. What do they do?
Oh yeah, like if they would have had like their own version, which they could do this right now in the manga, like have their own version of a Marineford arc, where they could have had like side chapters or episodes like that to where it focuses on what's Shoto doing, what's Bako doing, what's Ochako doing over here, that type of stuff that gives you more depth and feel for characters, and it's not just all about the main character. And that's kind of, in my opinion, what led to Dragon Ball's problem right there, right now in the manga.
I think Saljan brought up a really good point. The problem with Dragon Ball is that stakes disappear in Super because we know the ending for Z. And I basically agree with them, because the only way you could do that is if you retconned end of Z. And the problem is that would piss off a lot of fans, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true, but another problem with my distaste for Dragon Ball Super's manga right now is that it's mainly just become Goku and Vegeta. Like, sure, you introduced Broly and you kept him alive, but what are you gonna do with him? You showed off Gohan is ready to find the perfect balance and continue his training again. Okay, what are you gonna do with him? Nothing. It's like after that one scene in the Moro arc, everyone else just became irrelevant again, and that's really what I don't like with it.
I can see your point with that. I will say personally that I think what hurts Dragon Ball Wars right now is the fact that the animes quit running, so many channels I've seen that were doing Dragon Ball Wars kind of just died off, despite the fact that they're still decently popular, which is very bizarre to think about.
Yeah, but I mean, something that I like to point out for Dragon Ball content is that if you want to keep Dragon Ball with us alive, you could highly take not full ideals, but bits of inspiration from the fan mangas. Because I've been reading the new fan manga. I can't remember the name of it, but it's really good. They showed off what Beerus could potentially look like at full power, a whole blown storyline like that. Like something similar to that could be a really good what if idea, and it could actually help a lot of those what if YouTubers that, while the anime's not running, spread out a little bit.
With that is there's competition. Like Mondo Cool, someone who I highly respect, he basically covers fan mangas, so the problem is the market's already cleared for that. And there's a few other people who do fan manga readings, but he's probably the best, to be 100% honest. I even asked him one day with like how he edits, like with his manga panels and stuff, because he makes it look really clean, honestly. But I haven't had a chance to get back to him lately because I've been busy. But that's just how it is,
Yeah, 100%. That's how it is sometimes. You can't always get back to everyone.
Let's see. What suggestions do you have for people who want to do collabs, actually?
It depends on what type of collaboration they're wanting to do.
How so? It's kind of broad, honestly.
Okay, so it all depends on like if people are wanting to do collaborations. A lot of the time, it's best just to ask someone or like bring up the idea, and then see what their take is on that. But a lot of the time, if like you're dead set on it going a certain way, but the person you want to collab with doesn't want to, like there's a lot of different paths in collaborations, and that's personally why I don't do a whole lot of them, because more so I just like doing stuff by myself, because I like to take a story one way or another. But if someone brings a collaboration to me, I'm more so open-minded, because like this is their idea. I'll hear what they have to say, and most of the time I'll try to work with people, like say, hey, we have like a lot of different options we can go with. Do you want to take it down this path or that path? And there's just a lot of variables in it, so it all depends on what you're trying to make out of the collaboration.
It's understandable. Have you ever thought of using your older channel to possibly prop up other content creators potentially?
Yeah, actually, I have, because there was a YouTuber who he quit now, but I helped him out, and his name was King of Underworld, and we did collaborations. We had a podcast that we did together on the older channel, and then we did a series called What If Deku and Shinzo Were Heroic Spirits, where we kind of mixed two characters out of My Hero and mixed them with two characters from the Fate series. And so that was honestly a lot of fun, and it really did help him out because he gained like 500 extra subscribers off that.
Because I know with my channel, as a lot of people notice, I do a lot of collaborations. And partly, it's mostly because I want to help grow either underrated content creators or collab with people who I think I can bring interesting ideas to them. That's basically a lot behind it, because a lot of people know views are really down on my channel, which doesn't matter as much to me because I edit for other people. But I will say that for people who want to try to do this as a job, I don't recommend it, because that ship was probably a couple of years ago, honestly, for most people.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm all for helping people out, but it's like, for me to use my other channel, like, you got to have a dark story idea. Like, if you're trying to grow as like a darker story, then yeah, I'll help you out. I don't mind that. But just know it's probably not going to get like the same amount of views. And I'm similar to you. I didn't think about doing this as like a full-time job or whatever. This is something to help me like get some stress out whenever I'm at work, or after I get done with college prep, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the important thing is, if you're doing a YouTube channel, is to enjoy it, because what will happen is that unless you're really trying to chase that bag, you're not going to get that much higher up here, because you'll just burn out because you do the same thing over and over again to an extent.
Yeah, like I personally know someone, but I'm not gonna name them here. But yeah, they're all about chasing that YouTube bag and definitely wanting to make that their full-time job. Which, best of luck to them. But you know, I've seen the proof, and like, what if deals, they don't really make that much money, whatever, because YouTube, they pay you off of like what advertisements, like, can you help out an advertisement type of product. So if you don't really
Well,
fit the ad
the other
description.
people, like, things people forget is copyright, and also people pretending to be network, not anime channels, anime companies, and taking down channels. Because that's literally what happened to Salajin. He had way more subscribers than me. He was doing extremely well on the platform, and then he was just taken off because thousands of copyright strikes, basically, to his channel. He's just gone.
Yeah, I used to watch his channel. That really made me sad when he was gone.
That's the thing, though. Like, a lot of people liked his channel when he was doing Dragon Ball stuff, because he brought a different perspective, I think, to an extent. I don't think he realized it, but I think he kind of does, because he's open to collabs. It's very iffy with him. So when I
Yeah.
talked with him, he said he doesn't want to do another Dragon Ball channel, but he's like, he's up to collabs and stuff. And the main thing I'll say is that if you end up in a situation like him, you should consider fighting for your channel more. But with him, he kind of was done with YouTube anyway. So I guess
Yeah,
that's why it happened.
yeah, definitely. Because like, if anyone ever ends up in his situation, like, I'll tell you right now, to go ahead and just get that gone, deleted, all those years of hard work, all that amount of time you put into that, you're going to be done with YouTube pretty much for good, because that's a big blow to someone.
Well, I'm saying, like, you don't necessarily have to delete stuff, just make sure you have stuff backed up and just be ready to fight to an extent. Because the thing is, like, you'll never know if someone's real until they actually try to counterclaim you and whatnot. And
Yeah,
again, it takes a lot of time, but if you really care about your channel, you should honestly do it.
definitely, because like if you really care about it, starting over is extremely painful. It is extremely painful because you're going to have that expectation, and your videos are not going to meet that expectation right off. So if you really do care for that channel and you don't want to have to start over with all that stuff, definitely fight for it, because the people that go out there and fake copyright strike you, they're a bunch of fucking assholes. It's just that simple.
I will apologize to some audience that a bit more swearing and normal stuff, but honestly, not a big deal. It's interview. People talk this way. This video is probably demonetized anyway, so I don't care.
Oh yeah, that was something that like honestly surprised me, is like, because every one of my videos, pretty much except for my earlier ones, were perfectly eligible to be monetized. That honestly surprised me.
I mean, I will say YouTube has changed some of their stances. Like, you can curse in like the first 30 seconds, but it has to be certain words, and there's how many you can do. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'll probably have to hit the video myself to even see if this gets monetized. But the thing is, not every view on my channel is monetized, and that's one thing that I think a lot of people who start YouTube don't understand. It's like, someone could watch your video and get like no ads if they're not using ad block, which is kind of insane to think about.
Yeah, definitely, because I was watching like an hour-long video on this dude's channel, no ads. Then I go to like one of his 10-minute videos and I get 3 ads, and I'm like, oh, what happened here? And I'm like, was not monetized.
Yeah, it's, what if content's kind of hard because you have to push the line to an extent. It's
you really do.
And unfortunately, part of that's also YouTube's end. Wouldn't you agree with that, at least?
Oh, I 100% agree with that. It's definitely YouTube still, because at the end of the day, this is their platform, and YouTube is really not the best for user-friendly stuff.
Well, it's not user-friendly stuff. It's more like if someone wants to be a bit more graphic with their storytelling, like let's say I want to do Berserk what-ifs, I would have a lot of issues with that now because I have to figure out how to describe things that are so morbid, but also make it advertiser-friendly.
No, that's the thing. I did a Berserk deal where I took like faithful inspiration from Berserk and like made Deku's backstory very similar to Guts's, like word for word, and it's completely monetized, 100%.
Well, I'm saying like showing graphics.
Oh,
and stuff
showing
as well.
stuff? Yeah, showing that stuff.
Because I know you don't do that with some of your older stuff for sure.
No, but the thing is, I feel like as long as like the manga panels aren't like on there for like more than maybe 10 seconds, you should be good, because the Mortal Kombat stuff that's on here is definitely able to be monetized, and I have a feeling that Mortal Kombat's a lot more gruesome than anything that you could have shown with the Berserk stuff.
I will say that's the most bizarre thing that I see of YouTube. They'll monetize like gaming stuff that's pretty graphic, but if I talk about Death Note, I get demonetized instantly.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Like, I get the word death, that's always the reason why, because I have to get manually reviewed each time I do a Death Note what if, which is why I don't do them as frequently. But I will say, I do kind of like the fact that I do them, because I don't think many other people do Death Note what ifs, to be honest with you.
I have only seen a handful, and that is astonishing.
Because there is stuff you could do with it, and it's relatively popular even till this day, honestly.
I think the only thing that's more rare to find than a Death Note one is a Code Geass one.
Which is also surprising, because Code Geass also has plenty of factors you could make an interesting story.
There's so many different forms of Geass you could give someone. It's definitely something that you could, and it's still very popular. I mean, Code Geass is getting its own gacha game JP version in like 2 days.
I will say, if people get renders for that, we might see more Code Geass stuff, because I know with MHA, Dragon Ball, and Naruto, there's plenty of renders. That's what helps a lot. But with One Piece, for example, there is renders, but it's a lot harder to get, theoretically.
I've actually never really had an issue getting One Piece renders.
Really? I guess I'm just not looking in the right places, probably. Or
well, I also downloaded. Someone was giving away like a free render pack, and it had like a whole One Piece folder.
I'd be careful with those, because I downloaded one of those one time. There was a ton of fan art. It's like, nah, I'm not gonna get hit by fan art.
Yeah, the thing is, I've already checked all the way through. It's like, it's really good. So I personally not had an issue with them, because like I've used them in the thumbnails. So
yeah, I will say fan art's a very touchy subject for sure, because I think you should have permission for sure if you're using someone else's work to profit off of it, like, no question.
Definitely. And that's why, like, if you go, a lot of people find their renders on like DeviantArt. It's always a good thing just to scroll down just a little bit, and you know, they're saying, yeah, it's free to use, then sure, but at least, you know, give them a shout out. But now if you find it on Google, that's a whole nother story entirely. That's why I mainly try to use like deals from the manga. Like, sure, it's harder, but it's not that bad, because you can always just say, you know, it's from the manga and you're talking about it. So
what do you think was the most important element to creating a what if video?
Definitely the most important element for me was definitely like have a clear idea on where you want the finish line to be, and then like key moments that will lead you to that. So definitely have like an outline on where you want it to go from the very beginning. And definitely like people will definitely, like, I've had a lot of fanboys, just a whole lot of fans in general, go in there and say, you're not using the canon incarnation of this character, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, I don't. And I've stated this in a lot of my videos. For me, I never just took the one version of the character. Like, I took various different forms of the character and combined that into like my own version, where I took the things that I liked from different incarnations and put it into one, and then added it to where it would fit within the story very well. So that, it worked very well for me.
As far as when creating content, what was the hardest part for you to make a what if video?
The hardest part, legitimately figuring out who would survive.
What do you mean by that? Like with fight scenes, I guess, I assume?
Story moments, like I'll give an example. So I was doing my Berserk one. I had to figure out who is going to play the Casca role and get to live, because that was the hardest part for me, because when the eclipse happens within that story, you have to kill like pretty much everyone, but Casca and Guts were the only two to live. So obviously I had Deku be Guts, so he's gonna live, at least for that part. But who was gonna play the Casca? That for me is always the hardest part. It's like finding out who is gonna fit that role and who would play it best. And what would really give it the most emotional impact is like having that character survive.
That's fair enough. Do you think sometimes people get too edgy with their what ifs? 'Cause I know someone did. What if Naruto brought a water gun to a school and, you know, uh, I
Yeah.
don't even want to say it because I bet
People really do go too far with stuff like that. Like, yeah, no, they definitely do get too edgy.
I think that's the only reason why we might not be seeing as many dark what ifs is because people who do them so poorly get made fun of like that easily because of how weird and how insane they think that's a good idea for a story.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, I'm sorry, but if you think that's a good idea, that's your definition of, yeah, this is going to be a good dark series. Like, no, I'm sorry. Go back to your drawing table. Think again, because people are going to roast you for that.
I mean, as they should be, honestly.
I 100% agree with the people that roast them. Like, the thing is like, what makes a good dark story a dark story is the elements within the story, not necessarily the theme itself, but it's the elements you add in there. So, because not all seinens are like Berserk, right? One of my favorite mangas, and I'll give examples for this, is a manga called Real. It's a seinen, but I honestly think it's better than Berserk because it puts the elements of like getting back from a disability, you know, experiencing getting hit by a freaking truck and you're paralyzed from the middle of your chest down. That is a really dark element that could make for a good story in any what if you can implement it correctly. So that in itself is just doesn't have to be the whole theme, but it's the elements within it that make it a good dark story.
It's understandable. What do you think about people who say you have to take what ifs extremely seriously? Like, what's
You
your
don't.
stance
You,
on that?
you don't have to take what ifs extremely seriously. Unless that's the type of theme you're trying to go for. If you're trying to set the mood to be super serious, then sure, take it seriously, but you don't got to take it super seriously. Have fun with it. That's the most important thing, is to have fun and enjoy what you're doing with it. Because other than that, is it really going to be something you're going to be proud of?
I mean, I can agree with that because while there's people who take seriousness to different degrees, I think to me what's important is to make sure you have enough passion with what you're doing and to try to keep the characters to where they make sense enough to an extent.
Definitely.
I think that's the most important part when doing web stuff like that. Speaking of your last what if, which technically was your One Piece one, what kind of led you to have that drive to make it actually?
I made a promise that I'd finish it. And the people that were in the new Discord, they really did want to see how it would end. And I myself was kind of confused on, what could actually lead into a good amount of One Piece content that I could easily, kind of bounce off of and make it seem like a natural flow. And that was honestly one of the deals. That and my girlfriend really wanted to know how it ended. So I kind of didn't have any peace of mind until I finished that one.
That's understandable. Have you ever considered maybe remastering stuff in the future, or are you kind of like you kind of just want to be done with what is after you finish the One Piece one?
I'm for the most part, I want to be done with them, but
Because as we both know, One Piece, the story is still ongoing. Like,
yeah,
almost, not indefinitely, but it is going to keep going for a while.
Yeah, it's probably got like mainly, I'd give it about 5 more years, which is insane to think about. Saying only 5 more. but it's One Piece. It's been going on for pretty much 20 years. More than that, probably. And yeah, so for the most part, I'm pretty much like done, but I am helping someone, like giving them and tutoring them a little bit into making what ifs, because they reached out to me and they're wanting to start their own what ifs. So they said they wanted to take it more down a path similar to mine. So I am coaching them a little bit, and they're getting ready to release their first what if probably at the early next year or late December this year. So
What do you think's a good way to approach, like, what if YouTuber if you want like help with your content?
just hit them up in the Discord DM. That's probably the easiest way.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Would you like to promote your stuff here at the end? I think there's not much else I can think of asking you actually.
Yeah, sure. Like, if any of you guys want any help with yours, if you're wanting stuff that's like more geared to what I used to do, because then you know you could head over to my channel, Boss Fiend, and you can find my Discord link in any of those other videos. I do One Piece, Tokyo Revengers, and I cover a different seinen series every week, or at least I try to. This video that I'm working on is taking me a lot longer to do it because I'm really passionate about this one, where I'm doing an ultimate analysis on the manga Real and why you should read it. So, just go check that out over there. And that's pretty much all I got to say from there.
Anyways, this has been Drew from What If Universe. Thanking Boss Bing for coming on the podcast, interview, whatever this is. And other thing important to note, if you want to see part 2 for Western Night Eye Inherit One for All, we're aiming for 100 likes and 1,000 views. If you reach that point, we'll be in the talks again to write the next part. But until then, we are kind of just going our own ways with things, and I'm probably going to start on my One Piece What If again with Shonoji here, so expect that some point this month, hopefully. And always remember, in What If Universe, there are endless possibilities, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hello everyone, Uncle Joker here. Make sure to subscribe to the Society if you want to see more content, and use those opposable thumbs of yours to rate the video. If you want to be notified whenever I make a joke, hit that bell, because, YouTube isn't enough of a joke as it is. Until next time, toodaloo!